Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we transform stacks of information into crystal clear insights. Today, we're not just looking at language, we're really embarking on a linguistic adventure. We're turning what might seem like a simple English challenge into a pretty profound exploration of how language truly works beneath the surface. So, our mission today for you, our curious learner, is to take these 35 specific questions from an English grammar and vocabulary challenge and, well, dissect each one. We're not just finding the right answers, that's part of it, sure, but we're really uncovering the why behind them, giving you that shortcut to truly understanding the nuances of English, making each choice, hopefully, mesmerizing and intriguing. Before we plunge in, though, just a quick but important note. For anyone out there who loves mastering the subtleties of language, if you find immense value in these linguistic explorations and insights today, please make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel Daily Colloquial English and share it generously with your friends. They are a fantastic resource for deepening your language skills, and we highly recommend checking them out.
Indeed, that's a great point. Because this isn't just about reviewing a test, is it? It's really an opportunity to peer into the, let's say, the foundational architecture of English grammar and unlock the precise power that's vocabulary. We'll meticulously break down each question, exploring the underlying rules, shining light on common pitfalls, and revealing the inherent elegance of the correct choices. You'll find that even a seemingly minor grammatical twist or, a subtly different word can dramatically shift the meaning and impact of your message.
Exactly. So get ready for some serious aha moments as we go question by question. We'll be revealing a captivating logic that makes English both, well, challenging and incredibly rewarding. We're going to begin our journey with the grammar gauntlet. That's questions 1 through 15, where we tackle the structural backbone of the language before we sail into the vocabulary voyage. All right, let's kick things off with our very first challenge. Question 1, the sentence reads, writing a research paper is generally difficult as teaching at university. That is, their levels of difficulty are similar. And your options are 1 enough, 2, 2, 3, such 4 as. What's the grammatical principle at play here?
Okay, this question beautifully tests your grasp of comparative structures, specifically how we convey that two things possess a similar degree of a particular quality. The crucial clue, it's that second as, already sitting there in the sentence. When you want to state the two elements are equal in some attribute, you pretty much invariably use the construction as pseudo as. So as adjective as or as adverb as. Following this pattern, the correct choice to complete as difficult as is simply option 4 as.
Ah, okay.
Right.
So as difficult as.
Precisely. And the latter part of the sentence confirms this, right? It explicitly says their levels of difficulty are similar, which is the very essence of what as communicates. Now, let's briefly consider why the other options don't fit. Enough signifies sufficiency. It usually appears either before a noun, like enough time, or after an adjective, like difficult enough. It just doesn't pair with a following as for this kind of comparison.
Right.
Too implies an excessive amount, too difficult to explain or just it's too difficult. Again, no place in the as structure.
Yeah.
And lastly, such is typically used for emphasis, like such a difficult task, or maybe to introduce a consequence. It was such a difficult task that none of these grammatically complete the required as comparison here.
That's an incredibly clear explanation. It makes total sense. It's fascinating how a tiny word like as carries so much weight in establishing that exact equivalency. It makes me wonder, how often do people miss that? Maybe they use a less precise comparison.
It happens.
If you say writing a research paper is as difficult as teaching, you're making a very definitive statement. But if you changed it just slightly, say to writing a research paper is more difficult than teaching, the whole meaning shifts completely. From similarity to, superiority, these tiny linguistic choices really shape the precision.
Absolutely. And that's the crucial link for our listeners. Mastering this straightforward comparison is a powerful tool. It makes your descriptive writing far clearer, much more precise. When your goal is to convey that two things are on an equal footing, as sericose is your most reliable structure, it banishes ambiguity.
Okay, good point. Ready for our next linguistic puzzle. Question 2 takes us into the often tricky world of phrasal verbs. The sentence is, whenever I cannot understand the meaning of a word, I look it in a dictionary so that I can understand what the book is saying. Your choices are 1, down 2, after 3 for 4, up.
Right. This question is a quintessential test of phrasal verbs. These are, verbs combined with a preposition or an adverb, often creating an idiomatic meaning quite distinct from the individual words. The correct answer here is up, option 4. It forms the phrasal verb look up. Now, to look up something, specifically in a dictionary or any reference work, means to search for and find information.
Ah,
This meaning perfectly aligns with the context, not understanding a word, needing its definition.
makes sense. Find the definition.
Exactly. Now let's consider the alternatives. Look down usually means to despise, often followed by on, look down on others. Not relevant here.
No.
Look after means to care for something or someone, like looking after a child. Again, doesn't fit.
You don't look after a dictionary definition.
Precisely. And look for means to search for something that's lost or missing, like looking for your keys. Not quite right for finding information in a reference book. The phrase in a dictionary is the ultimate contextual clue here. It signals exactly which phrasal verb is needed.
That's a spot-on dissection. You know, the idiomatic nature of phrasal verbs is definitely what makes them both challenging and, well, such a vibrant part of English. It reminds me of a time a friend, trying to say he needed to review a document, mistakenly said he needed to look over it.
Ah, subtle difference.
Yeah. While look over can mean a quick review, it often implies a less thorough glance. Or even worse, imagine saying look out, which means be careful. The nuances are subtle, but the impact on meaning can be huge. Saying you'll look down information, nonsense, look after it. Even sillier. Context is absolutely king here.
Indeed. And this highlights why precision matters so much. Understanding common phrasal verbs is just vital for natural, fluent English, especially in, say, academic or professional settings. Mastering them lets you express yourself accurately, sound more like a native speaker, and avoid those awkward miscommunications. It's foundational.
Let's delve into question 3. This explores non-finite clauses, gerunds, infinitives, how we express actions related to nouns. The sentence states, to know his perspective on time during the pandemic and what we can do about it, I spoke to Tim Urban, the author of the blog Wait But Why. Options are 1, lost 2 or lost 3, to lose 4, which loses.
Okay, this question beautifully illustrates the elegance and conciseness that reduced clauses bring to English writing. The correct option here is number 1, lost. In this construction, lost functions as a past participle. It acts like an adjective, directly modifying the noun time. Essentially, it's a condensed form of a relative clause. You could think of it as time which was lost during the pandemic.
Ah, I see. It's shortened.
Exactly. This grammatical streamlining allows for a more fluid and, frankly, more sophisticated sentence structure. Now, let's quickly look at why the others don't work. Are lost, option 2, is a full verb phrase, present tense. Putting it here creates an ungrammatical structure like time or lost within this context. It's a predicate, not a modifier.
Right.
To lose, option 3, is an infinitive. It generally implies purpose or a future action like time to lose, meaning time available to be lost. Doesn't fit the past event implied by during the pandemic, and which loses, option 4, is a full relative clause, present tense again, time that loses. It also fails to fit the past action and, crucially, it's much less concise than just using the participle. That conciseness is really the hallmark of advanced writing.
That clarifies it perfectly, and expanding on that, the conciseness is remarkable, isn't it? Compare time which was lost during the pandemic with the much punchier time lost during the pandemic.
Much better.
It's more direct, more professional. It shows an economy of language that really improves the flow. You see this in headlines, academic abstracts. Anywhere, every word counts. It's a sophisticated way to pack more meaning into fewer words.
Absolutely, and that's the takeaway for listeners. How can you make your writing more sophisticated, less clunky? Use these participles effectively. Internalizing these structures refines your prose, makes it more fluid, precise, professional, invaluable skill.
Question 4 moves us into the fascinating realm of quantifiers, those little words telling us how much or how many. The sentence. After their meeting, they became closer friends, and he thought he could talk about his problems to his friend. Options are 1, little, 2, little 3, several 4.
Yeah.
Any.
Right, with questions a classic. It highlights a really crucial distinction between little and a little, which often trips learners up. The correct answer is number 2, a little. A little means some or a small amount, and it generally carries a positive or, neutral connotation. It implies that some quantity or possibility exists. In the context here, becoming closer friends, sharing problems a little suggests he felt comfortable enough to share some of his problems. It indicates a positive step in their friendship.
Okay.
Conversely, little, without the A, carries a negative connotation. It means hardly any or almost none. If the sentence used little, it would imply he felt he could talk hardly at all about his problems, which contradicts the idea of them becoming closer.
Makes sense.
Option 3, several, is only for countable nouns, like several problems. While problems are countable, the phrase talk several about his problems just doesn't work grammatically or convey the intended meaning of quantity here. And any, option 4, is typically for negative statements, questions, or conditionals like, you didn't talk about any problems, or do you have any problems? It doesn't fit a positive statement about sharing.
That's a fantastic explanation. That subtle difference between little and a little is so powerful. It reminds me how tone can be completely changed. If you say there was little hope left, it feels despairing, almost hopeless.
Right.
But if you say there's a little hope left, suddenly there's a glimmer of optimism. Just that tiny article, A. In our question, becoming closer friends strongly suggests a positive shift, making a little the natural fit for sharing problems. It signals a new willingness to share.
Precisely. And the practical application is clear. Choosing quantifiers precisely enhances your communication, especially when discussing feelings or quantities. Being mindful of these nuances lets you convey your message with much greater accuracy and emotional resonance, avoiding misunderstandings, a small detail with big returns.
Question 5 guides us into more formal linguistic territory with relative pronouns. The sentence reads, "This is the process. The seller can be sure that the bitcoins he or she is receiving are real. Options are 1, by which 2, by that 3, that 4, for it. What's the best fit here and why?" This sounds quite technical.
It does, and this question illuminates the precise and yes, formal use of by which to introduce a method or means. The correct answer is option 1, by which. This phrase clearly connects the process to the specific method the seller uses to ensure authenticity. Essentially, the process is the means by which the assurance happens. This structure is common when referring to a procedure, a method, or a system.
Okay, by which indicates the means.
Exactly. Now let's look at the others. By that, option 2 is grammatically incorrect here. That can't directly follow a preposition in a relative clause like this when referring to a thing, unless it's the direct object. The process that the seller uses, but not by that. That alone, option 3, could work if the sentence were restructured. Maybe this is the process that ensures. But it doesn't convey the necessary prepositional relationship of the by means of the process.
Ah.
And for it, option 4 is also wrong. It refers back to the process, but it's not a relative pronoun connecting the clauses. If for were the right preposition, you'd need for which. But here, by is correct, indicating the means.
That by which really adds precision, doesn't it? I often see people just use that or which. Can you elaborate a bit on when that preposition becomes essential? It seems crucial for specifying relationships, like the house in which I live, not just the house which I live.
You've hit on it exactly. The preposition clarifies the nature of the connection. In which specifies location, with who specifies accompaniment. By which here specifies the method or means. It adds formality and explicitness that just using that or which wouldn't capture, especially when describing a mechanism or procedure meticulously.
That makes perfect sense.
So the practical application, mastering these relative pronoun constructions with prepositions by which, in which, with whom, elevates your formal writing. It helps you understand complex sentences in academic or legal texts and allows you to construct sophisticated arguments yourself, precisely articulating relationships and processes, a hallmark of advanced English.
Now for question 6, we encounter a common idiom that often trips people up, involving verbs followed by gerunds or infinitives. The sentence, "New Year holidays are in just a few weeks and I look forward. Time with family." Your options. 1, that's spending. 2, to spending. 3, to spend. 4, for to spend.
Yes, this one focuses squarely on the fixed expression look forward to. This is a classic case where to functions as a preposition, not as part of an infinitive.
Ah, that's the key, isn't it? The to is a preposition.
It is. And prepositions must be followed by a noun, or in this case, a gerund, the ing form of a verb. Therefore, the correct answer is option 2, to spending. When you look forward to something, you're anticipating it eagerly. Let's quickly dissect the wrong options. That spending, option 1, is just grammatically awkward, doesn't fit. To spend, option 3, would be right if to were part of an infinitive, like I want to spend time. But in look forward to, it's always a preposition demanding the gerund. Think of similar phrases. I'm accustomed to spending time. I object to spending time. In all these, to is a preposition needing a gerund. For to spend, option 4, is simply ungrammatical, doesn't exist as a standard construction.
That's a crucial distinction, and English is absolutely full of these fixed expressions, isn't it? Look forward to is one of the most common. It's not strictly logical sometimes, it's just how the phrase evolved.
Convention, yes.
Like you said, be accustomed to doing something, object to doing something, be used to doing something, confess to doing something. In every case, that too is a preposition needing a gerund. Memorizing them as units is key. The difference between I want to spend, infinitive, and I look forward to spending, preposition plus gerund, is fundamental.
Precisely. So the listener takeaway. Avoid common errors with these fixed expressions to sound more natural and accurate. Pay attention to these patterns, especially verbs and prepositions always followed by gerunds. It's a big step toward fluency, signaling mastery beyond basic sentences. Makes you sound comfortable and confident.
Question 7 brings us to a more advanced structure, conditional inversion. The sentence is, for the villagers who rallied to save it, the lighthouse would have been auctioned off decades ago. Options. 1, whether or not it was 2, if there wasn't 3, were it not 4. Given that, this feels quite formal.
It definitely does. This question tests a sophisticated, more formal way to express a counterfactual condition in the past. The correct answer is option 3, were it not for. This is a classic inverted conditional. It's an elegant alternative to longer forms like if it had not been for, or but for. Its purpose is to state a condition that didn't actually happen in the past, but if it had happened, the past outcome would have been different. The main clause, the lighthouse would have been auctioned off, clearly signals that past counterfactual result.
Okay, so it replaces if it had not been for.
Exactly. Let's look at the others. Whether or not was grammatically clumsy doesn't form a coherent conditional. If there wasn't, to usually implies a present or general condition, not this specific past counterfactual linked to a would-have-been outcome. While if it hadn't been for works if there wasn't, doesn't quite fit syntactically with for the villagers here. And given that, for means considering that. It introduces a reason or premise presented as true, not a counterfactual condition. It implies something is a fact, not something that didn't happen but could have changed the past.
That breakdown makes it crystal clear. It's fascinating how, were it not for packs so much meaning that complex what if in the past into such a compact form, it does sound very formal, almost literary.
It does.
It reminds me of similar inversions like had I known instead of if I had known, or should you need instead of if you should need. They aren't just about correctness. They add sophistication, a rhetorical flourish, makes a sentence feel more impactful, often emphasizing the crucial role a condition played or didn't play.
A very good point. The fact that the villagers did rally makes were it not for perfectly apt, vividly painting what would have happened without them.
Yeah.
So the practical advice. Enrich your linguistic toolkit with these structures. Integrating elegant inversions demonstrates higher proficiency and provides a concise, graceful way to present complex hypotheticals. Enriches communication in essays, presentations, arguments.
Question 8. Tests. Our understanding of causal connectors, those crucial words linking reasons to results. The sentence. You always need cash flow to stay in business. You often hear the phrase, cash is king. Your options, 1, because that 2, that is due to 3, as for what 4, which is why.
Right, this is all about connecting a cause to its logical effect. The correct answer is number 4, which is why. This is an incredibly common natural connective phrase used to introduce the direct consequence or reason for a preceding statement. In this sentence, the necessity of cash flow is the direct reason why the phrase cash is king is so frequently heard and relevant.
Makes perfect sense. The first part explains the second.
Exactly. Let's look at the others. Because that 1 is grammatically incorrect, redundant here. You'd use because, followed by a full clause like because cash flow is essential. That is due to explains a reason, but typically needs a noun phrase after to. For instance, the prevalence of the phrase is due to the necessity of cash flow. It doesn't flow as a connector here. As for what, 3 introduces a different topic or rephrases like as for what we should do next. It doesn't establish cause and effect.
That's very clear, and which is why it brings such clarity and efficiency, doesn't it? It neatly bridges the two ideas, explicitly stating the second is a direct result of the first. You could say, you always need cash flow, consequently you often hear, or since you always need cash flow, you often hear.
Those work too.
But which is why it's particularly effective because it connects back to the entire preceding clause, treating it as the comprehensive reason. Makes the argument flow really smoothly, easy to follow.
Absolutely. And the practical takeaway is straightforward. Structure your arguments clearly by signaling cause and effect effectively. Using phrases like, which is why, lets you present reasoning transparently, logically, compellingly, enhances comprehension, and boosts persuasiveness in any communication.
Question 9 deals with maintaining parallel structure, specifically with the verb prefer. The sentence. They prefer depositing their money in a single account, several different ones, options 1, then putting 2 and to put 3 to putting 4 that put.
Yes, a textbook example of testing parallelism with prefer. When comparing two actions using prefer, the correct structure is prefer gerund to gerund, or prefer noun to noun. Since the first action is depositing a gerund, the second action must also be a gerund to maintain that essential parallelism. Therefore, option 3, to putting, is the only correct answer. The sentence compares depositing with putting.
Okay, so prefer depositing to putting.
Exactly. Let's see why the others fail. Then putting, one, is incorrect, because then usually goes with would rather than, or comparative adjectives taller than. Prefer consistently pairs with to for comparisons, and to put, to, breaks parallelism. You start with the gerund depositing, you can't switch to an infinitive to put for the comparison. Creates imbalance. And that put, for, is grammatically awkward, doesn't fit the comparative structure needed after prefer. Makes no sense here.
That clarifies the structure beautifully. It reminds me how crucial parallelism is in English. Not just for correctness, but for clarity and rhythm. It ensures similar elements have identical grammatical forms. Like, he likes swimming and running, not he likes swimming and to run.
Good example.
Or, she is talented in painting and in sculpting, not she is talented in painting and sculptures. Parallelism makes sentences balanced, elegant, easier to process. When comparing with prefer.to, maintaining that structure is critical for grammar and style, a mark of coherent communication.
Couldn't agree more. So the listener benefit. Improves stylistic elegance and grammatical correctness in comparative sentences. Applying parallelism avoids common errors and elevates your writing, making it more sophisticated, balanced, and pleasing to read. Foundational principle for clearer sentences.
Question 10 dives into concessive prepositions and conjunctions, useful words for expressing contrast or opposition. The sentence. She won't stop talking about conspiracy theories, my attempts to explain that they are false and dangerous. Options. 1, despite 2, though 3. In spite 4, contrary.
Okay, this tests knowing how to express contrast correctly using different structures. The correct answer is option 1, despite. Despite functions as a preposition. That means it must introduce a noun phrase to show contrast or concession. In this sentence, my attempts to explain is a noun phrase. So despite fits perfectly. It indicates her talking continues in spite of the attempts to explain.
Right, despite plus noun phrase.
Exactly. Now let's look at the others. Though, option 2 is a conjunction. It requires a full clause subject and verb after it, not just a noun phrase. You could say, though I attempted to explain, but not though my attempts. In spite. Option 3 is incomplete. The correct phrase is always in spite of. Without the of, it's grammatically wrong. And contrary, option 4, needs to function as a prepositional phrase expressing opposition, like contrary to my advice. Can't stand alone here.
That's a brilliant breakdown, and it highlights the richness of expressing contrast in English, doesn't it? You have different tools for different structures. You use despite or in spite of before noun phrase or gerund. You use although, even though, before full clause.
Correct.
And for connecting separate sentences, you might use adverbs like however or nevertheless. Each has a specific role. Confusing them leads to errors. Here, the direct connection to my attempts, the noun phrase, points straight to despite. It concisely shows the action continuing despite opposition.
Well put. And the practical advice. Choose the right word for concession to build sophisticated arguments. Understand the grammatical requirements of each concessive word, despite, although, however, etc. This lets you articulate complex relationships clearly, adds depth and precision, and helps you integrate opposing viewpoints effectively.
Question 11 presents a subtle but elegant structure, inversion with as the sentence. Each member contributes original musical compositions to the group, their friend and mentor, Mr. Coleman. Options 1 has, so 2, as does 3, as do 4, have done so. This is a neat way to avoid repetition, isn't it?
It is indeed. This question tests your knowledge of inversions, specifically the as does do structure. The correct answer is option 2, as does. This structure is used elegantly to avoid repeating the verb and to show that another subject performs the same action. The first clause says each member contributes. Since the second subject, Mr. Coleman, is singular, we use as does to show he also contributes. If the subject were plural, we'd use as do.
Okay, singular subject, so as does.
Exactly. Now the others. Has, so 1 isn't a standard inverted structure for this. As do 3 would be for a plural subject, like as do the mentors. Have done so. 4 is wrong because Mr. Coleman is singular. Needing has done so. But even then, as does is the more common, concise, and stylistically preferred inversion here. Its elegance lies in its brevity.
That's a sophisticated point about efficiency. It reminds me how these inversions are often used in formal writing to keep ideas flowing smoothly without clumsy repetition. Instead of each member contributes, and Mr. Coleman also contributes, you get the much smoother each member contributes, as does Mr. Coleman. It's a deliberate stylistic choice, makes writing more sophisticated, helps vary sentence structure, keeps the reader engaged, concise, professional. You see it in academic papers, journalism, literature, where economy and style matter.
Absolutely. And listener takeaway. Make your writing more concise and elegant using these advanced inversions. Employing structures like as does or as do shows higher proficiency and enhances readability and impact, makes arguments flow more naturally and persuasively.
Question 12 challenges us with perfect participle clauses, another effective way to combine sentences. The sentence, extensively in Eastern Europe, I can say with great pride that Bulgaria is exquisitely beautiful. Options. 1, I traveled 2, that I traveling 3, having traveled 4, as was traveling. This really compresses information, doesn't it?
It certainly does. This question is about forming a perfect participle clause. It's a sophisticated way to indicate an action completed before the main verb's action. The correct answer is option 3, having traveled. The phrase, having traveled extensively in Eastern Europe, acts as an adverbial phrase. It tells why or when the speaker can now say with great pride. The having plus past participle structure clearly conveys that traveling was finished before the statement was made.
Okay, completed action first.
All right, let's look at the others. I traveled, 1, placed before I can say without connection, creates a run-on sentence, 2 independent clauses jammed together. That I traveling to is just grammatically incorrect. Traveling is a present participle. The phrase isn't valid. As was traveling for uses past continuous. It implies an action in progress at the same time as the main action. While as I was traveling could work with a different main clause, it doesn't convey the completed action needed as the basis for I can say.
That's incredibly clear. And it highlights how powerful participle clauses are for combining sentences, enhancing writing. Instead of after I had traveled extensively or because I have traveled extensively, you get the concise having traveled.
Much more elegant.
Definitely. It's more economical, expresses sequence or cause effect efficiently, especially when the subject is the same. I did both. Imparts a formal, polished tone, makes the sentence flow better, a real mark of advanced composition.
Spot on. So the practical benefit for listeners. Improve fluency and complexity in writing by mastering participle clauses. Understanding how to condense and integrate information using these structures lets you craft more impactful, nuanced prose. Makes writing more dynamic, engaging, and precise.
Question 13 introduces a less common but very formal construction. An absolute construction, the sentence. Technical hiccups. The evening felt very smooth and everybody was pleased and happy. Options. 1, notwithstanding 2, nonetheless. 3, otherwise 4, nevertheless. This is one of those phrases that adds gravitas, right?
It certainly does. This question tests knowledge of absolute constructions and specific concessive words. The correct answer is option 1, notwithstanding, particularly when used as a preposition, often following its noun. The phrase technical hiccups notwithstanding means exactly despite technical hiccups, or in spite of technical hiccups. This structure creates an absolute phrase that modifies the entire main clause. It signifies that even with the hiccups, the evening proceeded smoothly. It's a formal, perhaps slightly archaic-sounding way to express concession.
Okay, notwithstanding after the noun. Interesting placement.
Yes, that's key here. Let's look at the others. Nonetheless and nevertheless, 2 and 4, are adverbial conjunctions. They link 2 independent clauses, usually starting a clause after a semicolon or comma. Like, there were technical hiccups, nevertheless the evening felt smooth. They can't act as a preposition directly following a noun like this.
Right.
And otherwise, 3 means in different circumstances, or apart from that. It indicates a different potential outcome. The evening was smooth, otherwise it would have been a disaster. It doesn't convey concession in this structural way.
That's a fascinating deep dive into absolute constructions. Notwithstanding fits perfectly to highlight concession. It reminds me how these constructions provide extra info about the main clause without being grammatically dependent on it. Technical hiccups notwithstanding stands alone, offering a condition the main clause acknowledges.
Exactly.
Very formal, literary. Adds sophistication and conciseness. You'd likely see it in legal documents, academic papers, formal reports. A powerful way to acknowledge a drawback without detracting from the main positive statement. And the placement after the noun is distinctive.
Precisely. The practical takeaway. Add sophistication to your writing, especially formal reports or papers. Understanding and using absolute constructions with words like notwithstanding shows mastery of advanced grammar. Allows you to express complex ideas with more nuance and conciseness, elevating your professional and academic prose.
Question 14 combines two tricky areas: relative clauses with phrasal verbs. A real double whammy for precision, the sentence. Last week, the UN Security Council passed a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in the war-torn region. Options: 1, where the militants didn't manage abiding by; 2, where the militants have yet to abide for; 3, which the militants failed in abiding for; 4, which the militants have not abided by.
Indeed, this demands precision on two fronts, the right relative pronoun and the accurate phrasal verb. The correct answer is option 4, which the militants have not abided by. Let's break it down. First, which is the correct relative pronoun to refer back to a resolution. It's a non-human antecedent, and following a comma, signaling a non-restrictive clause adding extra info, which is appropriate.
Okay, which for the resolution.
Second, the crucial element is the phrasal verb abide by. It means to comply with or to obey. This fits the context of militants failing to follow a ceasefire resolution. The preposition by is an integral non-negotiable part of this phrasal verb.
Got it. Abide by.
Now, the errors in the others. Option 1, where is wrong. It refers to a place, not a resolution. And manage abiding by is awkward. Option 2, again, where is wrong and abide for is incorrect, must be abide by. Option 3, correctly uses which but failed in abiding for is wrong. Well, you can fail to abide by or maybe fail in abiding by. The preposition for is wrong with abiding here. Only option 4 has the right relative pronoun and the right phrasal verb with its fixed preposition.
That's a phenomenal breakdown. This really highlights those two key areas: precise relative pronoun use and correct prepositions with phrasal verbs, which, after the comma, introduces non-essential info about the resolution. And abide by is fixed. You can't swap by for without changing meaning or making it ungrammatical.
Fixed partnerships, yes.
Understanding these precise pairings is essential for clear communication, especially about compliance, like with this UN resolution. It's the kind of precision that separates good writing from great writing.
Absolutely. So the practical advice: ensure your complex sentences are grammatically sound and phrasal verbs are used correctly for unambiguous communication. Learn the fixed prepositions for phrasal verbs and the rules for relative clauses. This lets you construct flawless sentences that convey your exact meaning clearly, preventing misinterpretations.
Okay, our final grammar question, number 15. This is a real sentence construction marathon involving purpose clauses and parallelism. The sentence: the incident spurred him and other students into action, a consequential effect on their education. Options are quite complex. 1, for making their campus to include Indigenous students, having; 2, to make their campus inclusive of Indigenous students, and have; 3, to make their campus including as Indigenous students, who have; 4, for making their inclusive Indigenous campus by students having. Wow, this looks like an English obstacle course.
It is quite comprehensive. It demands precision with infinitives of purpose and strict adherence to parallelism. The correct option is number 2, to make their campus inclusive of Indigenous students, and have. Let's deconstruct why. The main verb phrase is spurred into action. This signals the need for an infinitive of purpose indicating the goal of the action. So, to make is the correct start, establishing purpose.
Okay, spurred into action, to make.
Right. Then we need to describe the campus. The phrase inclusive of Indigenous students is the correct natural idiomatic way to express inclusion. The preposition of is crucial. Finally, and critically, we need parallel structure for the two intended outcomes. They were spurred to make their campus inclusive and to have a consequential effect. The to before have is implied, carried over from to make, making have, parallel to make, ensures grammatical consistency.
Ah, the parallel structure, to make and to have.
Precisely. Now let's quickly look at the flaws in the others. Option 1 for making is wrong for purpose here. To make is correct. Plus, to include Indigenous students having is very awkward phrasing. Option 3, to make their campus, including as Indigenous students who have, is just grammatically garbled, makes no sense. Option 4, again, for making is wrong, and the rest of the phrase is structurally flawed and ambiguous. Only option 2 flawlessly uses the infinitive purpose, the correct phrase inclusive of, and maintains perfect parallel structure.
Wow, that was a mouthful, but what an important breakdown. It really shows the necessity of parallel structure when listing actions or qualities, especially in complex sentences. The student's goal was twofold: to make the campus inclusive and to have an effect. You can't mix infinitives and gerunds or tangle prepositions.
Clarity is paramount.
Exactly. Keeping to make and to have parallel provides that clarity. This level of grammatical sophistication allows clear, impactful writing, especially in formal reports or proposals where actions and results need unambiguous articulation.
Couldn't agree more. So the practical takeaway for listeners, craft impactful, grammatically flawless sentences when describing series of actions or outcomes. Master infinitive clauses of purpose and diligently adhere to the rule of parallelism. This lets you communicate complex initiatives and impacts with clarity, professional polish, and authority. Essential in advanced communication.
All right, we've successfully navigated the grammar gauntlet.